Welcome to the Small Business Made Simple podcast, brought to you by socialmediaandmarketing.com.au. Being in business is never easy, but it can be simple, or at least simpler. Join me, your host Jen Donovan, every week where we focus on marketing, social media, and working towards simplifying your business. You with me? Let's do this.
Gonna dream it big, 'cause someone out there listening. Everyone's got a voice to give, and it's time I heard you whistling, 'cause there's no point at all, in dreaming small.
Why, hey there, my fabulous listener. Welcome to episode 182 of the Small Business Made Simple podcast. Thank you, as always, for lending me your ears today. I know you have lots of choices out there, and I really do sincerely appreciate you making me one of them. If you're enjoying this podcast, though, can I ask you a little favor? Could you take a screenshot of you listening to this with your face or without your face? Turn the camera on yourself and tag me in it. I would love to get to know you just like you're getting to know me by listening to this podcast. That would be super cool. So take a screenshot, head to socials and share a screenshot. You will find me on most of the platforms at Jen Donovan with 2 N's with an underscore or a .au, but I will come up, I promise you. And of course, before I get started, the show notes for this podcast can be found at socialmediaandmarketing.com.au/182. I have a fabulous guest on the show today, and I am really excited to chat with her, or to have you listen to my chat with her is probably more what we are doing here. And I just have to say at the start, we talk about the SMB Digital Conference. If you've listened to the last couple of episodes, you know that I've sort of promoted that a couple of times, but we both speak about it at the start of this podcast interview. And I want to assure you, this is not a sponsored podcast episode. I will always be entirely transparent with you if it is a sponsored podcast, if there is money changing hands. But you see, my podcast, which I am super freaking excited about, is the podcast, the one and only podcast that is sponsoring SMB's Digital in Sydney at the end of March. So therefore, I said, as part of my would you like to sponsor, would be like, hey, you know what? I'll just give you the conference a few shout outs on my podcast to let my listeners know about this awesome free event. So they're not paying me to mention this on the podcast, and they're not paying for my guests to be here either. I just wanted to be super upfront about that. But this podcast is going to make you look at the world a little bit differently. And I think that's my goal for this year. I've got some pretty cool things up my sleeve. So stick around for as the year sort of winds on, and you will definitely see that I'm all about doing things a little bit different in 2022, but still keeping it simple, because it is a Small Business Made Simple podcast after all. So my guest, like I said, I have one today. Her name is Suzette, and she is talking about AI, so artificial intelligence. Now, I know it might sound scary, but rest assured, it's not. And in fact, if you are, you're already using so much AI in your business and in your life right now, probably today. So it's not scary. It's just recognizing that what we are using is actually a form of artificial intelligence. For instance, if you're on social media or you're using Google, then you are definitely using a form of artificial intelligence. So Suzette is here to make us all feel much more comfortable with the thought of AI and how it might look inside our small businesses, and how it can actually help us to build better brands and grow better businesses. So without holding you up any longer, here's my chat with Suzette. Hey Suzette, how you going?
I'm great. I'm really looking forward to talking to you today, Jen.
Yeah, that's great. So, Suzette, we are doing an in real life conference together at the end of March. How cool is that, to actually see people from the shoulders down?
I'm so looking forward to it. I've really missed the vibrancy and the interaction of actually being around other business owners and being able to network with them. And as you say, being able to see the whole person as opposed to just their heads.
Absolutely, absolutely. People will soon learn that I'm not really 6 feet tall. I'm really only like 5'1" or 5'2". So it's going to be quite a shock to some people. So let's have a bit of a chat about the conference. It's on in Sydney, the 30th and 31st of March. Where's it being held?
It's being held in Darling Harbour at the ICC, so the convention centre there, the SMB Digital Conference.
Ah, yeah, okay. So it's all about digital, which is probably why you have one of the gigs. So I think there's 55 speakers or something there. Do you know many of the other speakers attending? Like, I don't know many, but gee, some of them have some pretty big roles.
Oh, there's some absolutely amazing speakers, and I'm really actually looking forward to being able to attend myself and listen to some of the other exceptional speakers. I do actually know one of the others who's actually running one of the workshops, Tim Hyde. So he's doing all around
the only one I know.
Well, Tim and I have known each other for a very long time because he's also another Canberran like me. So he's based here in Canberra as well.
Yeah, right. I know Tim through another marketing person that we know, and also Jemima Ashley, who knows Tim quite well. So I know Jem very well. So there you go.
I'm also very good. I'm very good friends with Jemima as well. I actually knew both of them before they actually knew each other independently. I met Tim through his previous life when he was an information manager like myself, and Jemima and I met through a social group on Meetup originally, and then she started her business. So yes, I'm very familiar with both of them.
Oh, so cool, so cool. So the event is free to go to. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're getting a little bit curious about the event, I guess I'll have a link in the show notes, of course. Otherwise, just go to Google and type in SMB Digital Sydney, and I'm sure the conference will come up. But what are you going to talk about, both on the podcast today, but also a little bit at the conference as well?
What I'm talking about is how AI can actually be utilized by small businesses. I keep constantly hearing AI is scary. I get that a lot from people. And also that it's only for the big organizations, the big companies. And it can't be anything more wrong. I mean, there's so many opportunities for AI as a small business owner for us to be able to reduce our costs and actually get more time back in our day than any time before. And it's being able to get AI to do the heavy lifting for us is very much a win in my books.
Yeah, and I think it is a little bit that small businesses just haven't quite seen the power of it just yet, and maybe don't know where to turn to it. I would have said, when I think about AI, that it is for the big corporates, because it probably in my head has been expensive, and therefore big corporates are the ones in my head that can afford it. So I'm really looking forward to listening to your talk at the conference in Sydney, but also having a bit of a chat to you today with my small business audience, because I think it's really something, I remember going back, it was probably 2 years ago or something like that. I got a message. I was talking about something AI, and I got a message from one of my girlfriends who's not in business, admittedly, but she's like, "Who's Al? You keep talking about Al. Who's Al?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's capital A, it's capital I. Sorry, it's AI." I always get who's this Al person you keep talking about? So we're going to talk about AI. If you see it in the show notes, it's not Al, it's AI with capital letters. So Suzette, tell us a little bit about how you got involved in AI, or a little bit about who you are and what you do. Start wherever you want.
Look, my journey was I've run another company called Century 7 for over 20 years, being in Canberra, doing a lot of work with government and large corporations in the area of how people use information. It's actually how I met Tim. I was in that particular sector. And it was something that I'd been doing for a long time, that I tried to move into the small business sector about 6 or 7 years ago, and realized that I absolutely bombed at writing marketing content. Couldn't do it to save my business or my life at the time. So I had to go back to working in the bigger end of town. So what I found though was that I actually being able to take, fast forward a few years later, I then had a situation where I was reading up about this new technology, this new AI technology, where it could write indistinguishably from humans. And I thought, I need this. This could actually write on my marketing content for me. And so I sort of brought my expertise and my very much experience at not being able to do it myself and coupled it with AI. And that was sort of how Reno started originally, which was called Simple Marketing, trying to make marketing simple for people like myself, for instance. And then I realized, though, over time, last 12 months, that we really needed, my expertise was more in helping with more of the reports or complex content and being able to leverage existing knowledge, which is why we changed to the new name of Reno, or to know something again. So it was a bit of a journey, and I got into AI because I've always been in that technical space, but I found that sort of coupling it with my experience as a small business owner was how I sort of meshed it together.
Yeah, okay. And for those listening, I know it's audio, so when you say words, it's hard to see how they're spelt. So Reno is R-E and then no, K-N-O-W. For those who are listening along, going, how do you spell Reno? Yes, so just thought I'd pop that in there. But so how can you give me some, I guess, practical examples of how a small business, and even maybe a further bit down, a micro business solopreneur type person, can look into using AI in their business to, and you gave us the two songs that we want. You're going to save us time and you're going to save us money. Like, no business owner doesn't want to do both those things. So have you got some ideas or suggestions or practical applications that you've seen on how we can use AI in our everyday business?
Absolutely. And in fact, I'm currently using one right as we speak at the moment. So I have a AI called, Crisp.ai, and spelled with a K, and KRISP. And it's what it does is actually means that my voice, if you've ever had a situation where somebody has really lots of background noise and things like that, it removes it all for me. And I really didn't believe it. So I had to bang my table when I first did the time. But it was great. So all my Zoom meetings, I've had a meeting in a busy cafe where I couldn't even hear the other, like myself speak almost. But the other person on the other end, not a problem at all. They actually, we can't hear anything. So, I mean, that's some way of being able to get across ways very quickly. And I mean, that's only $60 a year. There's other ones like there's a number of software like Lumen 5, Lumen 5, that actually will take your blog post or your LinkedIn article and turn it into a video using AI. So in 10 or 15 minutes, you can have this fantastic little 1 or 2 minute video of your article. So repurposing your existing content very quickly without having to do it.
I want to know a little bit more about this one. So what does the video look like? Obviously these are only printed words. So what are we watching?
It actually, essentially, a lot of AI mimics human behavior. And in this particular case, they have an AI behind it that essentially, in inverted commas, reads your content. So it understands the context of what you've written, and not only summarizes it first, but it also then actually will select little video clips from sites like Pexel and Pixabay and Unsplash, and meshes it together with the overlay of your text on the video. Now, you can go in and change it if you don't like the particular video, or you want to actually emphasize something else, or you can select a slightly different format. But ultimately, it has done most of the heavy lifting for you because it selects suggested videos that would suit the content that you have in your blog post.
Yeah, wow. Okay. Super interested to know a little bit more about that, I guess. Yeah, to see an example, I guess, to see Yeah. So if it's AI and it's a video, is it putting captions or is it a voiceover?
It's captions.
Yeah.
So you can put voiceover. That's one service. There was actually an Australian company that actually got bought out last year called Vidnami that did a very similar thing as well. They were based in Melbourne. So you could then, for that, it's another kind of form of AI. You could go to a text to speech service, which would actually take your content or your captions and turn it into a voiceover. So now you can have your AI create or do the voiceover for you and put that into the video with the video. And now you've got a video that's been created by AI and the voiceover done by AI and the original content done by a service like something like Reno or one of our competitors, all done by AI. But you still having the control and the oversight and the ultimately it's still your work. The AI just did the heavy lifting for you.
Yeah, okay. This is so super interesting. I guess for anyone listening to the podcast who's thinking, this all just sounds like, 2050 stuff. Is there any examples that you can think of off the top of your head of AI we're already using in our everyday lives and we just haven't connected the dots that this is AI?
Look, pretty much I think most people either have some sort of streaming service, Netflix or Amazon or something like that. All of those use AI to suggest or recommend a movie or a TV series to you based on what you've done before. Music services like iMusic, Spotify, they're all heavily using AI behind the scenes to make the experience seamless for you and to actually surface things that are going to be potentially of interest to you. Other ones are even your iPhone or your Android phone having things like Siri or Alexa or any of those sort of ones are all forms of AI that we're all using currently.
Yeah. See, I knew you'd put it into practical examples for me. Tell me, and this is my ignorance in AI perhaps, when I do an Instagram video and it puts captions on, is that a form of AI or is that just a transcript service that's different?
Well, most transcription services these days are actually being done by AI. Unless you've got somebody sitting there manually transcribing your service, most of the services these days are also another form of AI. So most of your businesses that are listening to this, you're probably using AI already in your business and not even noticing.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
And that was kind of my point, I guess, because sometimes we think of these things as so futuristic and that can't relate to me, but they've actually already in our lives and we've just gone along and we've followed the cows and we're just like, yep, we use that service too without really understanding the technology behind it. And quite frankly, I'll put out there on the table, I don't even know how a fridge works. It's just something I open every day. I've never been a mechanic. I've no idea how these things work, but I use them every day, a bit like AI inside our businesses. I guess for me as a small business owner, and of course, you talk about, keeping things simple, which is music to my ears. Obviously, that's my business model, is trying to keep things simple and realizing not everything is easy. But one of the advantages small business and micro businesses and solopreneurs have over the corporates is how quickly we can implement these things, how quickly we can change our business to start saving time, to start saving money, because we don't have a board of directors, we don't have, people that we have to ask permission for. We just get to test and measure. So for anyone listening to this podcast who's a little bit curious about what you've already said, where should they start? What should they be thinking of inside their business? Let's perhaps give you a couple of practical examples. Maybe a retailer, who has an e-commerce type store, is on social media, does write blogs. What's the best way for them to start thinking about some of the ideas that you've suggested here?
Look, part of it, I think, is actually not thinking about it from the perspective of using, I need to go out and use AI.
Yep.
And really more turn it back around to, I need to actually solve a problem in my business. What's the best way to do it? Now, the reality is, in most cases, if you want to reduce cost or time, AI is going to hands down be much faster than humans for a lot of the very repetitive style types of work. So like the transcription, the humans will be absolutely best at finessing it and making it higher quality afterwards. But the actual original transcript is much easier to be done by the AI and much faster. You get it done in a few minutes as opposed to several hours. So I think the first point is make sure that you're doing it from a perspective of you're trying to solve a problem in your business first.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do it that, then go out and look at what options there are. And have a, don't be afraid if they say, we do this with AI, to actually consider those services, because a lot of the time it's ultimately going to be faster and cheaper for you and give you the ability to actually look at what you're doing and provide the quality, the quality check over the top of it, as opposed to having to do it manually yourself in the first place.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good point. So I guess, most small business owners, though, their problem is time. Their problem is that, they need to save time in order to do, other things they want to do, maybe like, take the boat out or spend time with the family or something like that. So I guess where do people start looking for AI that can help them? Obviously, Reno can help them. What do you see people come to you mostly or first for?
Well, we are more in the area of people being able to transform their existing content and their existing knowledge into other formats. There's a lot of time, even like we talked about earlier around podcasts, when they get their transcript, they want, a lot of podcasters want to turn that into an article or turn that into social media posts and things like that. So that's something that we're working on at the moment, of putting something together where we get the AI to take the original transcript and turn that into a summary for the person, a description. But other ones like where you want to actually have your Zero uses a lot of AI to help suggest ways to actually to automate putting your finances together. So think about spending a bit of time and going through and actually setting up the rules it needs to know around how you need it to work. So that will actually save you time. So this is why I come back to understanding what it is that you want to get rid of, because the reality is when we only have a finite amount of time in our lives, but there's some things that we want to get rid of and there's some things we don't want to get rid of because we actually enjoy doing them. So knowing what we need, we'd like to get rid of, start doing some Google searches around how do I solve this? How do I solve this with AI? Add that to the Google search. Because in a lot of cases, a lot of the startups, and there's a lot of startups these days, will actually have that in their website. And Google's a form of AI and has a huge amount of AI in there and will help to actually surface a lot of companies and startups that can, or services that will help you with the problem that you have at the time.
Yeah, okay. I like that answer, but I also realize that we don't know what we don't know. So, for instance, I go into Zero and, it's just like click, 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 do this, do that. And I don't know that there is AI that can help me make that quicker. So I guess that is solved by, I don't know, I guess following other people, by reading the articles that Zero would send out or reading other people's articles and just being open to ideas, because very much because for a lot of people, AI is new, even though it's probably not, because now we've just realized how much we use it in everyday life, but it still is that we don't know what we don't know.
Absolutely. But I also sort of suggest, do we care how the light switch works? When we turn that light switch on, it works. And that's
right. It's like my fridge.
Like your fridge. We don't need to know how the fridge works. It just works. And to be really frank, the most of the really good companies are the ones who are using AI. For the most part, you don't need to know it's AI at the back end.
So true. So true.
So part of it is it's being open to using software that does tell you that it's AI, but it's not necessarily being so generally, if something's doing faster and cheaper, in most cases, there's going to be some AI in there. But what I think probably the big thing for me for small businesses is being open to using AI, being open to actually having it in your business, and not being scared of it. Because a lot of people also, what I hear is, as I mentioned before, AI is scary because they think it's going to replace their job. And the reality is it's not. It's not going to replace your jobs. It's going to make it so that you can be better at what you do, better in your small business and that side of it. So for some of the things that I mentioned, like Chris, for making podcasts and Zoom meetings and things like that, that's a great one. There's pretty much AI for anything any kind of problem that you want these days. If you don't like actually doing podcasts, you could actually do a podcast where you type out all of your script and then get an AI to read it for you. And there's some that are so natural sounding these days, unless you really know what you're talking about, it'll do it for you. An example, Facebook at the moment is playing around with, and for everyone who's on there, if you're using Facebook, you are most definitely using AI. They are one of the heaviest users, like Google. Facebook is playing around with, and this is with actually taking children's drawings and animating them with AI. So pretty much what we can do, there's researchers who are investigating if we can talk to whales with AI. And there is so many opportunities. And for me, the biggest thing about talking about AI and small businesses is getting people to understand that this is not something scary. This is something wonderful. It's coming. In fact, it's already here, and to embrace it. But really, to go looking for something to bring AI into business, the reality is you probably already have it. But do you care how it works, if it's doing the job you want it to do?
I think that is just so powerful to think about it like that. It's not coming, it's here. We're already using it. It's implemented into our daily lives. We haven't even blinked an eye at most of it. And it's really just then trying to leverage it even more to help us in our small businesses. This has been such a great chat, Suzette. I'm so thankful for you coming on the podcast today and I guess taking away the veil of AI and making it more everyday for us, which it already is, but there's just other applications we could look for. Other than coming to see you in Sydney on the 30th or the 31st of March, how else can someone get in touch if they're interested in knowing a little bit more about yourself or Reno?
Look, I'm very easy to, so you can look up me, Suzette Bailey, on LinkedIn, or reno.io is our website. Reach out to us, and very happy to jump on a chat and sort of work through what people are doing. I always love having chats because, like you were saying before, we can, we've being able to meet and talk to people, I think, is such an important thing. And so I love talking to people, and if people, reach out and we can have a chat about it. For me, AI is something that we should be embracing as a business. And if I can help that with other businesses to see that and not be afraid of it, I think that, I've done my job.
Yeah, perfect. I will have links to those websites and your LinkedIn in the show notes, of course. But otherwise, look forward to seeing you in Sydney in about a month's time. We're recording this at the start of March. I will see you at the end of March. Super excited and very thankful for you to come and have a bit of a chat to us about something that's not so scary.
Thank you for having me. I've absolutely thoroughly enjoyed myself. Thank you.
So did you enjoy that? Did it make you think a little bit harder, a little bit further, a little bit wider? Well, I really hope so, because that's That's my game. That's what I want you to start thinking. I want you to start thinking harder, further and wider and different and mixing things up. It's 2022. We've got to, think what else can we do inside our businesses to grow them, to make them more profitable, and use all the technologies that are at our fingertips. But anyway, that's it for another podcast episode of my Small Business Made Simple podcast. Let's chat in the Like-Minded Business Owners Facebook group. If you're not already a member in there, then head in there and let's chat in there, because I have some super awesome, amazing guests coming up to do some lives inside that Facebook group. So it's free. It's obviously a free Facebook group. And the people that are coming on are super experts in their field, but they're also giving up their time for free to help you build better, stronger, wider, more resilient businesses as well. So we've got finance experts and PR experts and marketing experts and law experts. And in fact, my first guest, and if you're listening to this podcast when it goes live, which is, about mid-March, then you will be listening to Annette Denshin, who has the Audacious Agency, who's talking all about entering awards and winning awards and how that is an amazing piece of your marketing strategy. And I am like full hands-on about that as well. High fives all around. Definitely needs to be part of your marketing strategy. So even if you're listening to this in the future, Facebook Live will still exist as a replay in the Like-Minded Facebook group, Like-Minded Business Owners Facebook group. So go there and have a bit of a look. And just one more thing before I go, and I know I'm chatting a lot, but my podcast just in the last week or so reached 100,000 downloads. My little independently made podcast has hit the 100,000 downloads mark. I was doing enormous happy dances and really should have broken open champagne at 6 o'clock in the morning, but thought that probably wasn't the thing to do. But to you, my amazing listener, thank you, thank you, thank you. Huge heartfelt thank yous, not for getting me to 100,000, even though that is, a bit of an awesome goal to reach, but for listening, for sharing, for implementing some of these things into your businesses, and also, for following guests and building your businesses, the right way, the profitable way, and of course, the simple way. You are the reason why I turn up every week. So enormous thank yous for that. But anyway, I will see you next week for episode 183. But whatever you do, my small business peeps, remember, as my opening song says, there is no point in dreaming small.
No time like the present. Tell it like you feel it, say it proud, be true, and let us see you for the star that you are. No point in dreaming small.
I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, the Yorta Yorta people, on which I record this podcast and conduct my business today, and pay my respects to their elders, past and present. I extend this respect to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here with us today as well.